The first thing anyone noticed when Lord Adrian Ravenshade entered a room was not fear. Fear came after. What arrived first was silence. Sudden and complete, as though the air itself understood authority before men did. Conversations stopped. Servants lowered their eyes. Even nobles twice his age straightened instinctively, because Adrian Ravenshade carried war around him the way ordinary men carried shadows. By the winter of 1678, his name had become something mothers used to frighten unruly children in villages near the northern borders. Sleep, or Lord Ravenshade will come riding from the mountains. The stories were absurd. He did not punish children. He punished traitors. There was a difference. On the morning he arrived at Blackthorn Valley, snow covered the roads in uneven layers, and the sky above the kingdom of Eldoria was the pale grey color that promised more storms before evening. His carriage bore no royal insignia. His soldiers remained half a mile behind. He preferred entering places alone. It revealed more. Blackthorn Abbey stood at the edge of the valley beneath ancient pine forests, its stone walls worn by centuries of rain and winter. Once, it had belonged to monks. Now it functioned as a sanctuary for wounded soldiers, abandoned children, widows, and farmers too poor to afford physicians. The building was old. Cold. Underfunded. Still standing only because stubborn people refused to let it die. Adrian studied the structure for several moments before stepping down from the carriage. The steward waiting outside bowed immediately. "My lord." Adrian nodded once. "How many residents?" 72 currently. Staff? 12. Funding? The steward hesitated. Insufficient. Adrian began walking toward the entrance. He had been sent by the Crown with one objective. Conduct an inspection. Determine whether Blackthorn Abbey remained worth supporting. Recommend closure if necessary. The order had arrived sealed by royal authority. The language had been careful. Administrative review. Resource redistribution. Efficiency measures. Adrian understood translations. Destroy this place. That was what the document meant. He accepted the assignment anyway. Because refusing royal orders was impossible. And because he preferred witnessing destruction before signing his name beneath it. The interior smelled faintly of herbs, smoke, and medicinal oils. Long corridors stretched through dim stone halls. People moved quickly. Not with comfort. With exhaustion. He noticed everything automatically. 3 children sleeping beneath one blanket. A soldier missing his left arm. Empty shelves where supplies should have been. Too many patients. Too few healers. The imbalance was immediate. Someone nearby dropped a wooden bowl. The sound echoed. Then another noise followed. Soft. Different. The unmistakable sound of a body surrendering to gravity. Adrian turned. She was already falling. One hand stretched toward the wall. Dark hair loosening from its pins. Her face unnaturally pale. He crossed the distance before thought occurred. One arm caught her shoulders. The other prevented her head from striking stone. The movement was instinct. Years spent pulling injured men from battlefields taught reflexes impossible to forget. She weighed almost nothing. Too light. Her eyelashes moved faintly against pale skin. Not unconscious from injury. Exhaustion. There was a difference. He recognized it immediately. Voices erupted nearby. Lady Alara. A young assistant hurried forward. Another woman appeared carrying folded linens. Fear crossed their faces. Not dramatic fear. Familiar fear. The kind belonging to people who had watched someone overwork themselves for too long. Adrian lowered her carefully onto a bench beside the corridor. The older healer reached them first. Gray-haired. Thin. Sharp eyes. He examined the woman briefly before sighing. Again. Not panic. Resignation. She has collapsed before, Adrian said. The older healer looked up. Yes. How often? A pause. Enough. The answer irritated him. Not because of disrespect. Because vague answers wasted time. What caused it? The healer stood. She gives away meals. Silence. She purchases medicine for patients using her own wages. Another pause. She sleeps approximately 4 hours each night. Adrian looked toward the unconscious woman. Dark hair. Thin wrists. Hands roughened by work. Not noble hands. Working hands. Despite the refined structure of her face. How long has this continued? Years. The older healer met his gaze without lowering her eyes. Interesting. Very few people did that. Lady Elara Whitemore, the man said quietly. Head healer. Adrian remembered the name. Thomas Whitemore's daughter. Former royal physician. Accused of treason 15 years earlier. Dead before clearing his reputation. His daughter inherited his disgrace. Adrian knew records. He remembered them all. Lady Elara opened her eyes moments later. Not slowly. Immediately alert. Awareness returned with unusual speed. Her gaze moved across the room. Located unfamiliar faces. Stopped on Adrian. Assessment appeared there. Not confusion. Evaluation. Interesting again. You should remain seated, said the older healer. I am working. You collapsed. I recovered. Her voice remained calm. Measured. As though collapse inconvenienced schedules more than health. Then her attention returned toward Adrian. Recognition arrived. Not fear. Something else. Calculation. You are Lord Ravenshade. Yes. The inspector. Yes. Silence followed. Several seconds. Her gray eyes studied him openly. Not rude. Simply direct. Then. You came to decide whether this place deserves survival. The statement carried no emotion. Only fact. Adrian answered equally. I came to evaluate. A faint expression moved across her face. Something resembling tired amusement. Those are often the same thing. The healer nearby attempted interruption. My lady. Elara stood. Too quickly. The room shifted. Her balance faltered. Adrian moved before thinking. Again. His hand steadied her arm. Her body froze slightly. Not because of weakness. Because she seemed unfamiliar with assistance. Interesting for the third time. She regained balance almost immediately. Then stepped away. Carefully. Deliberately. Distance restored. Forgive the interruption to your inspection, she said. Her posture straightened. Composed despite obvious exhaustion. We have little luxury for illness here. Then she walked down the corridor. Not quickly. Not slowly. Simply continuing. As though collapse had never happened. Adrian watched her disappear. The older healer exhaled. She will work another 12 hours. She requires rest. The man nearly smiled. You tell her. Inspection began. Adrian examined records. Supply inventories. Patient lists. Financial ledgers. What he expected. Mismanagement. Inefficiency. Waste. What he found. Precision. Every resource stretched impossibly. Food rationed carefully. Medicine reused creatively. Survival engineered through discipline. The numbers disturbed him. Because efficient institutions rarely appeared desperate. Blackthorn Abbey was both. By evening snow had intensified. Servants lit candles throughout corridors. Most patients slept. Adrian remained reviewing ledgers in a small records chamber. Someone entered quietly. Lady Alara. Carrying additional books. Her expression changed slightly seeing him. Not surprise. Adjustment. You are still working. The observation sounded neutral. Yes. You missed supper. Again. Observation. Not concern. Adrian looked toward her. You noticed. I notice everything. The answer came immediately. No hesitation. True then. He believed her. She set several ledgers onto the table. These contained supply orders from previous years. His gaze shifted. You organized these? Yes. Alone? Yes. Another pause. Why? For the first time uncertainty crossed her expression. Very brief. Then vanished. Because no one else would. Simple. Unadorned. The kind of answer difficult to argue against. She turned to leave. Stopped. Then said quietly. My lord. Yes. If you intend fairness in your report. Her fingers tightened slightly around the ledger. Then examine the records from 7 years ago. He watched her. Why? Another silence. Longer. Then. Because shortages began then. She met his eyes fully. And something beneath calm surfaces existed there. Controlled anger. Old. Carefully hidden. You will discover Blackthorn Abbey did not become poor naturally. The room remained silent. Snow struck windows softly. Adrian studied her. Years of military service had taught him one truth. People who survived hardship developed certain expressions. Lady Alara carried them all. Then she left. The door closed. Adrian looked toward the older ledgers. Slowly opened them. Read. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. By minute 15 patterns emerged. Missing shipments. Altered amounts. Payments approved for supplies never delivered. His expression changed almost imperceptibly. Because the implications were becoming obvious. Someone had stolen from Blackthorn Abbey. Repeatedly. For years. Systematically. Not random theft. Organized theft. His attention sharpened. Another page. Another discrepancy. Another. Then. Movement outside. Footsteps. Fast. A shout echoed somewhere in the corridor. Immediately followed by smoke. A servant burst through the doorway. My lord. Adrian stood. What happened? The archive room. The servant struggled breathing. Fire. Silence. One heartbeat. Then another. Adrian's gaze shifted toward ledgers spread before him. Toward evidence. Toward patterns. Toward truth. Someone had discovered what he was reading. And someone wanted those records destroyed. Outside, bells began ringing through Blackthorn Abbey. The sound carried across stone corridors into the winter night. And for the first time since arriving, Lord Adrian Ravenshade understood. His mission had never been evaluating a dying sanctuary. His mission had been burying what survived inside it. His mission had been burying what survived inside it. The fire spread through the archive room faster than Oldwood should have allowed. That was Adrian's first thought. Not accident. Accelerant. Deliberate. By the time he reached the corridor outside the records chamber, smoke had already begun crawling along the ceiling in dark ribbons. Servants moved in chaos. Buckets. Blankets. Shouting. Someone cried. The sound echoed through stone walls. Adrian crossed the distance toward the flames with the controlled speed of a man accustomed to emergencies. Fear wasted time. The archive room door stood open. Orange light surged inside. And standing beside it, Lady Alara. Her sleeves rolled. Face streaked with ash. Dragging ledgers across the floor before flames reached them. For one impossible second Adrian simply stared. Not because she was there. Because everyone else moved away from danger. She moved toward it. A beam above cracked sharply. His body reacted before thought. He crossed the room in 3 strides. His hand caught her arm. Hard. Enough. She pulled instinctively. There are records still inside. The roof will collapse. Those records matter. Her voice broke slightly. Not from fear. Urgency. The distinction mattered. Adrian looked toward the burning shelves. Then back at her. Gray eyes. Ash across her cheek. Absolute refusal. Interesting. Always interesting. The ceiling groaned. He made the decision instantly. One arm around her waist. The other reaching toward the nearest stack of ledgers. Then movement. Backward. Fast. The beam crashed moments after they cleared the doorway. Stone shattered. Flames surged. Heat struck like a living thing. Someone screamed nearby. Silence followed. Then only breathing. Heavy. Controlled. Alara stared at the destroyed room. Something moved behind her expression. Not grief. Calculation. Inventory. Loss assessment. How many survived? Her voice came quietly. Adrian looked toward rescued records. Approximately 20 ledgers. Perhaps fewer. The older healer appeared beside them. His face pale. The lower archives are gone. Alara closed her eyes briefly. One breath. Then opened them again. Composed. Always composed. Too composed. How many years? The healer hesitated. 5. Another silence. Longer. Then she nodded once. Acceptance. Not surrender. Different things. Adrian watched her carefully. Because ordinary people broke under pressure eventually. He wondered when she allowed herself. Or whether she had forgotten how. The following morning snow covered Blackthorn Valley entirely. White. Cold. Beautiful in the indifferent way winter often was. News traveled faster than weather. By sunrise rumors had begun spreading. Archive destroyed. Investigation compromised. Records lost. Coincidence. Administrative failure. No one mentioned sabotage. Not publicly. Adrian spent the morning reviewing surviving ledgers. Patterns remained visible despite damage. Missing shipments. False expenditures. Payments approved through Crown officials. Not enough for accusation. Enough for suspicion. The distinction frustrated him. Someone entered quietly. Ilara. Carrying tea. Not because he requested it. Because apparently she noticed when people worked through nights. Again. Interesting. She placed the cup beside him. You should sleep. He looked toward her. I am working. A faint expression crossed her face. Almost amusement. You sound familiar. His gaze remained on her longer than necessary. Then. You recognized sabotage immediately. Yes. No surprise. No. Why? She stood near the window. Snowlight touched her face. Making exhaustion clearer. Older somehow. Not by years. By burden. Because this is not the first attempt. Silence. Adrian's attention sharpened. She continued. Supplies disappear. Witnesses change statements. Letters vanish. Her fingers tightened around folded cloth in her hand. 3 years ago a physician documenting shortages died after falling from his horse. Pause. He did not ride. The room remained very quiet. Outside wind moved through pine trees. You believe officials are involved. I stopped believing in coincidence long ago. Another truth delivered simply. As though painful things required less decoration. Adrian watched her. Then asked. Why remain? The question arrived before intention. Perhaps because he genuinely wanted the answer. Her eyes shifted toward him. Remain. At Blackthorn Abbey. You could leave. Another silence. This one different. Personal. When she answered her voice lowered slightly. My father spent 20 years healing people the Crown later abandoned. Her expression remained calm. Almost. When his reputation was destroyed. Pause. He died believing service meant something. The words landed softly. Precisely because they lacked bitterness. Bitterness would have been easier. I remained because someone should. No drama. No self-pity. Only fact. Again. Interesting. Dangerously so. By late winter official announcements arrived from Ironhold capital. Royal decrees. Stamped. Sealed. Public. Blackthorn Abbey would undergo formal inquiry. Funding suspended temporarily. Investigations opened. Additional accusations emerged. Then worse. Printed notices appeared in villages surrounding the valley. Lady Ilara Whitemore suspected of financial misconduct. Questionable handling of charitable funds. Daughter of disgraced physician under scrutiny. The language remained careful. Always careful. Never direct enough for legal challenge. Sharp enough to wound. Exactly intended. Adrian read the first announcement in silence. Then the second. Then the third. His expression changed almost imperceptibly. Enough that soldiers serving him recognized danger. Political attacks rarely began openly. Character destruction arrived first. Ilara received copies without visible reaction. She continued working. Prepared medicines. Changed bandages. Organized supplies. Nothing altered externally. Which concerned Adrian more. Because pressure required release eventually. Otherwise damage happened internally. 3 weeks later storms trapped Blackthorn Valley beneath heavy snow. Travel became difficult. The abbey colder. Food scarcer. The inquiry approached. And one evening Adrian found her unconscious. Again. Not collapsed dramatically. Asleep. Seated beside records. Head resting against stone wall. A candle burned low nearby. Ledgers spread around her. Her hand still held a quill. For several moments he simply stood there. Watching. Because sleeping changed people. Removed defenses. Lady Alara appeared younger asleep. Less controlled. Human. The observation unsettled him unexpectedly. Her breathing sounded uneven. Too shallow. He stepped closer. His hand touched her forehead. Heat. His expression hardened immediately. Fever. Of course. Exhaustion eventually demanded payment. He called for assistance. The older healer arrived. Looked once. Then sighed. Again that same resignation. She has been ill for days. Adrian turned sharply. And continued working. Yes. The answer irritated him. Not the healer. The situation. Her. The impossible stubbornness. She requires rest. She requires surviving. The older man met his gaze. Those become different things when resources disappear. Silence followed. Heavy. Adrian looked back toward her. Ash-blonde candlelight across tired features. Hands rough from work. Always working. Always sacrificing. Something unfamiliar moved beneath his ribs. Annoyance perhaps. Except annoyance did not explain why he remained beside her bed through half the night while snow struck windows. Nor why he ensured medicine arrived before dawn. Nor why servants noticed. And exchanged glances. People noticed everything eventually. The fever lasted 4 days. On the 5th she woke. Immediately aware. Always immediately. Her eyes found him sitting nearby reviewing documents. Confusion appeared briefly. Then vanished. You remained. The statement sounded softer than usual. Adrian looked up. Yes. You had obligations. Yes. Silence. Her voice lowered slightly. You neglected them. No. Another pause. Then. You should not have. His expression remained unreadable. You say that as though I require instruction. Something changed. Very small. At the corner of her mouth. Not quite a smile. Close. The first he had seen. Unexpected. Dangerous. Because he discovered immediately. He preferred it. The realization arrived unwelcome. He ignored it. Spring approached. Snow melted. Roads reopened. Then news came from Ironhold Capital. The inquiry would proceed publicly. Witnesses summoned. Evidence examined. Anne. Lady Alara Whitemore specifically named. Political theater. Predictable. Adrian read the summons twice. Then burned the envelope after memorizing contents. Because anger required somewhere to go. That night he worked alone. Letters. Documents. Testimonies. Military contacts. Former judges. Old debts owed. The corruption reached higher than expected. Crown advisors. Treasury officials. Noble families. Not isolated theft. Systemic. By dawn he possessed enough information to begin war. Not battlefield war. Worse. Political war. The kind ending dynasties. Someone entered quietly. Ilara. Recovered physically. Mostly. Still thinner than she should be. Always thinner. Her eyes moved across scattered papers. Then toward him. You have not slept. No. Another pause. Then. What are you preparing? He met her gaze. Long enough that ordinary people looked away. She did not. Finally. Protection. Her expression shifted slightly. For the first time uncertainty appeared there. Real uncertainty. For Blackthorn. His answer came immediately. For truth. Silence followed. Long. Then softer. That is dangerous. Yes. You may lose everything. Another pause. His voice remained level. I have survived war. The candle between them flickered. Wind moved outside. Then he said quietly. There are losses worse than titles. The word settled between them. Neither moved. Neither explained. Some truths required no explanation. Her gaze held his several seconds longer than necessary. Then lowered. Only briefly. The first time. And Adrian understood something with sudden unwanted clarity. The war approaching no longer concerned only Blackthorn Abbey. Or corruption. Or politics. Because somewhere between burning archives and sleepless nights, a woman with exhausted hands and impossible loyalty had become something he intended to protect. Not from duty. Something more dangerous. Choice. Outside, spring storms gathered over Eldoria. And far away in Ironhold capital, powerful men prepared hearings believing outcomes already decided. They were wrong. Because for the first time in 20 years, Lord Adrian Ravenshade feared not war, but losing one woman. The Grand Hall of Kings had been designed centuries earlier to make ordinary people feel small. Everything inside it served that purpose. The ceiling stretched impossibly high. Columns of dark marble rose toward painted arches depicting victories long turned into legends. Sunlight entered through narrow windows and fell across the chamber in pale gold bands. At the far end stood the council platform where nobles, ministers, and royal advisors judged matters affecting the kingdom. Power lived there. Or pretended to. On the morning of the inquiry, every seat in the gallery had been occupied before sunrise. Word spread quickly when scandal involved influential men. Faster still when a woman stood accused. Lady Ilara Whitemore arrived alone. She wore dark blue wool. Simple. Perfectly tailored. Not wealthy clothing. Respectable clothing. Her hair had been arranged with precise care because she understood something many powerful men never learned. People often judged credibility before hearing truth. She refused to provide easy targets. When she entered the chamber, conversations softened. Then stopped. Not because of authority. Because curiosity frequently produced silence too. The daughter of a disgraced physician. The accused healer. The woman blamed for financial theft. People examined her openly. Searching for guilt. Weakness. Fear. They found none. Ilara walked steadily toward the witness table. Her posture remained straight. Hands calm. Only someone observing closely would notice her fingers tighten briefly against folded documents before relaxing again. Human. Nothing more. The inquiry began shortly after. Formal announcements. Procedures. Titles. Endless institutional language designed to disguise violence behind politeness. Lord Chancellor Edric Vale presided. 60 years old. Careful. Known for loyalty toward Crown interests. He studied Alara briefly before speaking. Lady Alara Whitemore. Her voice remained steady. Yes. You stand accused of manipulating financial records associated with Blackthorn Abbey. Yes. The hall shifted slightly. Several people exchanged glances. No denial. Interesting. The Chancellor continued. You acknowledge involvement. I acknowledge handling records. Silence. Then. I deny corruption. Again calm. Always calm. Questions followed. One after another. Not designed for truth. Designed for erosion. Her father's accusations surfaced first. Predictable. They always used dead men unable to defend themselves. Your father was investigated for treason against Crown interests. Yes. He died before restoring reputation. Yes. Would resentment toward royal institutions influence your judgment? A pause. Small. Then Alara answered. No. Another question immediately. How can certainty exist? Her grey eyes lifted toward the council. Her grey eyes lifted toward the council. Because resentment and dishonesty are separate things. Murmurs moved through spectators. The answer landed cleanly. Too cleanly. Someone uncomfortable shifted. The questioning intensified. Funding discrepancies. Missing records. Burned archives. Witness statements. Every accusation delivered carefully. Every implication sharper beneath politeness. Alara answered each precisely. Dates. Amounts. Supply inventories. Names. She carried years of records inside memory. By the second hour something subtle changed within the hall. The atmosphere shifted. Because truth repeated consistently becomes difficult to ignore. Even when inconvenient. Then Chancellor Vale introduced new evidence. Letters published publicly weeks earlier. Anonymous testimonies. Claims against her character. Her expression remained unchanged reading them. But Adrian, seated near military representatives, noticed one thing. Her breathing slowed slightly. Deliberately. Controlled. The way soldiers prepared before impact. He noticed because he watched everything concerning her. An observation he disliked. Yet accepted. The Chancellor folded another document. Lady Whitemore. Pause. Several witnesses describe unusual proximity between yourself and Lord Adrian Ravenshade during the investigation. Silence followed. Heavy. Political. Interesting. The implication obvious. Discredit evidence through scandal. Ancient strategy. The gallery waited. Alara looked toward the council. Then answered quietly. Lord Ravenshade performed his duties. Nothing more. You deny personal influence. Another pause. Very brief. Then. I deny dishonesty. Again. Clean. Precise. Refusing traps. Yet the room changed. Pressure increased. Because men losing arguments often searched elsewhere. Hours passed. Then. The great doors at the rear of the hall opened. The sound echoed sharply through stone. Conversation stopped immediately. Every head turned. Lord Adrian Ravenshade entered. No announcement. No escort. His dark military coat carried winter dust from travel. Apparently he arrived directly. Interesting. His presence altered rooms naturally. Not arrogance. Wait. The Chancellor frowned. You were not scheduled today. Adrian continued walking. Measured. Controlled. Until stopping before the council platform. No. His voice remained even. I was delayed obtaining evidence. Silence. Then movement. Documents. Bound records. Letters bearing seals. Testimonies. Financial ledgers. The stack reached the Chancellor's desk. Thick. Considerable. The room shifted. Because evidence possesses gravity. Chancellor Vale examined the seals. His expression altered fractionally. Recognition. Concern. Adrian spoke. The inquiry concerns Blackthorn Abbey. Pause. Therefore all corruption associated with Blackthorn Abbey should be examined. Another silence. Longer. Then. Entirely. Something changed instantly. Because powerful men recognized danger before ordinary men did. Questions redirected. Records opened. Witnesses summoned unexpectedly. One Treasury official contradicted previous statements. Then another. Timelines fractured. Narratives weakened. Patterns emerged. Missing shipments. False expenditures. Diverted crown funds. Royal advisors connected repeatedly. Names appearing across years. The gallery transformed. Murmurs. Whispers. Shock. Political confidence evaporating. Then came the final document. Adrian placed it personally before the Chancellor. A letter. Old. Preserved carefully. Bearing seals belonging to 3 senior Crown Ministers. Approval signatures. Orders. Explicit instructions regarding Blackthorn Abbey funding reductions despite awareness of theft. Deliberate. Systematic. Chancellor Vale read silently. Once. Twice. His face lost color. The hall waited. Entirely silent. Then. This. His voice faltered briefly. Rare. This implicates members of the Royal Treasury. Adrian answered immediately. Yes. Another pause. Then. And several noble houses. Yes. The Chancellor looked toward council members. Toward ministers seated comfortably hours earlier. Comfort vanished. Finally. How long have you possessed these documents? Adrian's expression remained unreadable. Long enough. Silence. Then one council member rose suddenly. Lord Cedric Thorne. Treasury advisor. Wealthy. Influential. Dangerous. His voice sharpened. These accusations border treason. Adrian looked toward him. Calm. Which proved more threatening than anger. Then. Corruption hidden behind authority remains corruption. Pause. Regardless of titles. The room became very still. Because everyone understood. War had arrived. Not military. Political. Worse. The inquiry continued 3 additional hours. By sunset outcomes became unavoidable. 4 ministers suspended. Treasury investigations ordered. Crown audits initiated. Funding restored. Protected permanently. Blackthorn Abbey preserved. Expanded. Official appointments approved. Reforms promised. The kingdom shifted slightly. History often changed quietly. Then suddenly. This was both. When proceedings ended, spectators departed rapidly. Nobles whispered. Advisors calculated survival. Alliances dissolved invisibly. The grand hall emptied slowly. Elara remained seated. Motionless. Hands folded. Because after years carrying burdens, resolution sometimes felt unreal. Footsteps approached. Familiar. She looked up. Adrian stood before her. No uniform stiffness now. No audience requiring performance. Simply him. His expression unreadable as always. Almost. Then. The council approved administrative reforms. She nodded. Yes. Additional funding. Another nod. Yes. Silence. Then quieter. You were appointed royal keeper of healing houses. The title settled between them. Strange. Impossible. The first woman granted such authority. She looked away briefly. Toward fading sunlight through high windows. Then back. Something vulnerable existed there suddenly. Rare. I did not expect. Her voice stopped. Began again. Softer. I expected survival. Adrian watched her. Long enough that ordinary people became uncomfortable. Then. You should expect more. The words arrived simply. Yet something beneath them existed. She heard it. Because her expression changed. Very slightly. The hall around them emptied further. Almost no one remained. Finally she asked. And you? What about me? What do you expect now? The question remained suspended. Quiet. Honest. Dangerous. Adrian looked toward the high windows. Toward evening light. Then back toward her. And for perhaps the first time in years. Entirely unguarded. Peace. One word. Unexpected. Because men built for war rarely requested peace. Her expression softened. Almost invisible. Then. I hope you find it. His answer came immediately. Without hesitation. I think I already have. Silence followed. Different from earlier silences. Not careful. Not uncertain. Something else. Understanding perhaps. The chamber felt smaller suddenly. Though unchanged. He extended his hand. Formal. Proper. Entirely appropriate for the era. Yet his voice lowered slightly. Lady Elara Whitemore. Pause. Will you walk with me? Outside the grand hall snow had begun falling again. Soft. Quiet. Winter returning. She looked at his hand. Then toward him. Years of exhaustion. Sacrifice. Hunger. Survival. All carried carefully. Then. For the first time in a very long time. She chose something for herself. Her hand settled into his. Warm despite cold fingers. Certain. She stood. Together they walked through the grand hall beneath ancient arches where kings once believed themselves permanent. History would remember inquiries. Reforms. Corruption exposed. Titles earned. Yet none of those things became the story people repeated generations later. They remembered something smaller. Stranger. That after years spent carrying kingdoms, two people burdened by duty discovered peace not in victory. but in being seen completely. Outside, snow continued falling over Eldoria. Blackthorn Abbey remained standing. Children would survive there. Soldiers would heal. Hungry people would eat. And somewhere beyond politics and titles, a man who had spent years preparing for loss finally stopped expecting it. He offered his arm. She accepted. And nothing about the future remained uncertain.